does climate impact geomorphology? Morphogenetic regions, concept which has been used by Budel, used by Peltier, the climatic conditions, and how it impacts geomorphic processes and landforms. Elseking, however, dismisses this. He uses the concept of climatic uniformitarianism. Now, one more question you can look up and prepare is, okay, how does the structure of the rocks impact geomorphical processes and landforms? The relationship between rock structure or geologic structure, and how is this related to landforms? Page number 26, there is a statement that says geological structure is a dominant control factor in the evolution of landforms and is reflected in them. How does structure impact? How does structure impact landforms? Now, when you say structure, it means 2-3 things. Okay, structure of the region implies, one is it says nature of rocks, the arrangement of rocks, okay, and third is related to the rock characteristics. Rock characteristics, we're talking about, okay, porosity, permeability, okay. So page number 26, second column, and the second paragraph. Page 26, second column, second paragraph, it says, if structure is used in the narrow sense of the term, then it includes only the formation and arrangement of rocks. But if it is used in the wider sense, then structure includes nature of rocks. Nature of rocks का मतलब होता है type of rocks. Basalt है, sedimentary rocks हैं, igneous rocks हैं. What types of rocks? Arrangement of rocks, which is about the presence of folds and faults, all those arrangement in terms of domes, okay, arrangement and rock characteristics. This implies the presence of rock joints, the properties like permeability. It includes joint patterns, it includes rock resistance. So rock characteristics are these 4-5 things. So what happens is structure decides ease of denudation, zones of weakness, the relative rates of transportation of weathered sediments, the effectiveness of erosion or weathering agent, whether winds will be more effective, will chemical reactions be more effective, will rivers be more effective. So these are 3-4 ways how the structure impacts, and the structure as a factor take the discussions towards the concepts. Structure as a factor in geomorphic theories and models. Now, this is something which is not mentioned in these pages, but add this as a part of good 1 or 2 paragraphs. So mention 3-4 names. So one name you can mention is Gilbert, G.K. Gilbert. He says structure is a factor in the form of rock resistance. So Gilbert talks about structure. Then we have J.T. Hack. J.T. Hack talks about lithological control in slopes development. Third, Davis acknowledges but does not give due importance. Then we have Gregory. I think I mentioned this name last time. Gregory talks about landform development. Landforms are a function of geomaterial. And Pink talks about processes and their effectiveness. Okay, depends on structure. He talks about rocks, okay, the rock types, the presence of faults. It depends on the rock structure. So this is something that you can't ignore. So structure as a factor में 4-5 नाम mention करना. And I did mention this in your write-up in the last class. Okay, so page number 49 has this equation. Yes, Davis did not give due importance to structure, correct. So this is one discussion, we'll talk about it. Then we had a reference of J.T. Hack also, Gilbert's theory, page number 64. Page 64, a second column, last paragraph. Some of you would have written this down while the classes were on. Page 64, second column, last paragraph. His concept of equilibrium and the concept of driving force and resisting force. The concept of driving force and resisting force. And the resisting force is something like the hardness of those laccoliths. The hardness of the laccoliths, that's the role of the rock hardness or structure. Then J.T. Hack's model, yes, this is page number 75 maybe here, and some bit of it, okay, yeah, I think 75 will do. So he talks about J.T. Hack's model. J.T. Hack's model, look at the first column, last 4 lines, it says, Hack has invoked the model of lithological adjustment of landforms. Okay, that processes are closely related to differences in rocks and the processes acting on them. Page 75, first column, last 3-4 lines, that topographic forms and processes are closely related to differences in rocks and processes acting on them. Okay, so he has given examples. So while Hack was studying, he gave examples from Appalachian Mountain. So these are some of the references we'll add. How is structure an important control in landform development? So do look these up. Now another discussion that I want you to look up is, while you are studying slopes, let the conclusion talk about how landform development is a complex process. Models cannot account for all factors, and that structure is very diverse factor. And one reason because of which, remember we talked about last time, hardware models are more difficult compared to mathematical models. In recent times, the focus of geomorphology is more on smaller scales to account for local geology. This approach is better for addressing problems like landslides, slope stability, for predicting earthquakes, which are all dependent on the structures. Okay, so learn to develop the conclusion around whatever the question is and use some concepts, whatever you can.